Hey, what's happening, peeps? I appreciate y'all tuning in today's episode. I got some fire content for y'all again. Before we get too deep into content, I just want to say, tell a friend, like, comment, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on. I appreciate all the feedback that I've been getting. We just dropped the last video that was talking about career change and jobs burnout. A lot of positive feedback. A lot of people reached out to me directly, so I'm grateful for all the comments there as well. And if there's a topic that you want to see, like, comment below, let me know, because I want to be able to bring value to you all. And the only way I'm going to know if I'm bringing value is if you give me feedback or you tell me what you want to hear more of as well. So let's get into it. So today I want to talk about toxic work environments, right? And so I want to just start off just by giving a definition on the word toxic. Poisonous, very harmful, and unpleasant or pervasive, right? So none of those are things that are good for you, more or less, is what I'm talking about, or what I'm saying when I'm reading that definition there as well. And so what I want to start off with here, just talking about traits or signs that you're in a toxic work environment. And I got a list of them as well. So I want to talk about them. I'm going to kind of list them off, but I'm going to, as we go through each list, I'm kind of talk about each one there as well. So first one on the list, sign, gossiping or bullying, right? If you at a job or you're working and it's always a lot of bickering, a lot of talking behind each other's backs, not in a positive way, right? If you are talking, about something that someone has done and they crushed it, they did a really good job. Hey, Chris helped me out on A, B, and C. He crushed it. That's totally different than you talking about, did you hear what Chris said? Can you believe what Chris did? Like, that's a situation where you're not trying to build the person up. You're trying to destroy the person, bring them down there, if you will. In addition to gossiping, I would even put bullying in that aspect of it. And what that is, someone's trying to strong arm you to do something so they can get their way, or they can, get things done the way that they want to do it, or make it easier for themselves. A lot of times that happens when we talk about, people trying to vote or pick or elect for something as well. So that's a sign that you want to be aware of when it comes to toxic work environments. The next one I want to bring up is just low morale, right? I think, it kind of gets swept under the rug. It happens and people don't pay attention to it. But think about that in terms of, you just go to work and you just feel like everybody feels down, right? Nobody's excited. Everybody's depressed. They don't believe anything is going to work out good, for the good. It's just down morale. They don't feel good, right? And I want to make sure I iterate this point. You going to work and having low morale, you're not going to be able to come home and just change it and have positive morale. It's going to flow over, right? And so you want to be aware of that, because it will impact your personal life. Everybody wants to, there's a lot of things you could be stressing about, but try to take that work stuff and leave it at work and not let it spill over to your personal life there as well. The next one I'm going to talk about is just high turnover, right? That's another sign. And certain jobs are typically just known for high turnover. We think about the service, when it comes to the food industry, or work like fast food and stuff like that, or working in some retail jobs, there can be some turnover just in general there as well. But if you're in a career role or a career job, and you're seeing a lot of constant turnover, that's not really a good sign, right? I mean, if you're in finance and you're seeing a bunch of accountants just come and go, right? You pay attention. There's a reason that they're coming and going, right? It's not a good reason either, right? When people come to organizations, they plan to stay for a long period of time in that role, or they typically plan to get into that role and move up within the organization. So if it's a high turnover, that's not a good sign. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few moments there as well. So some other signs I want to talk about. Next up, I just want to make sure that you don't kind of get fooled by this, is excessive overtime, right? And this even goes if you're working hourly, right? I know hourly people, a lot of times they like working overtime because they get that time and a half. On holidays, you'll get that holiday pay. But working an excessive amount of overtime is not a good sign, It's not a good sign, right? So if you typically are working 40 hours a week and all of a sudden you're getting paid to work 20 extra hours of overtime, right? It's not a good sign that you're in a positive environment there as well. And you need to be aware of that because they'll sneak that in on you, right? And I know it's you get the extra pay, so that can be a benefit, but you still need to have some balance on that, right? And who really needs to look out for that are salaried employees, because you're getting paid a salary based on 40 hours a week. They're not paying you to work 60 hours. So when you get your salary and you know what it is, you can give them a little leeway if you want to be nice. Okay, I'll factor it in based on 45 hours, right? But if you start working extra 15 hours of overtime, 20 hours of overtime on a week consistently, that's not a good sign. That's a toxic work environment there. And you need to be aware of that, right? Because you're actually taking a pay cut to do that when it comes to that, when you're a salaried employee. So if you are getting paid $100,000 to work 40 hours and all of a sudden they're asking you to work 60 hours, you don't get any pay increase on that. So you're actually taking a pay cut on that. So be aware of that aspect of it. The next one I want to, now, if I'll mention it, if you, there's like, jobs will have cycles, right? So certain jobs will be busier throughout the year just because of their peak season. So I'm not saying if there's like a peak season for it, but if it's like a consistent, it's like your off season and you're working these excessive hours, then that's not a good sign, right? In addition to the hours of overtime, a lot of times what comes with that is an increase of excessive workload, right? All of a sudden, because there's high turnover, the work still has to be done. They just add that onto your plate. So now you're not doing, one person's work, you're doing two, or maybe you're doing 2.5, right? And so that's not a good sign of a positive work environment. It's toxic, right? I keep saying toxic. I want you to know what's toxic. And I'm going to keep reiterating it until it's beating a dead horse in. But, that's a toxic work environment, right? Sometimes it can be an opportunity for you to step up and help you lead to a promotion. But a lot of times it's not a good situation. So if you feel like you're getting an excessive amount of work, it's not just because you're a top performer sometimes as well. You could be in the middle of the pack, right? But if you're just getting an excessive amount of work, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing, right? The next one, it'll lead to burnout, right? It'll essentially lead to burnout. You're working excessive hours with excessive workload. You will be burnt out, right? You have to balance your own personal life and work-life balance. The companies will not do it. I'm going to say that again. You have to balance your own personal and work-life balance. The companies will not do it, right? So you will get burnt out if you don't say no. A couple other things I have on here. If the company, they don't have any career growth for anyone, that's always just kind of something that comes up. Be aware of there. If you see a company having some bad press, right? If it's like a well-known company, but if you start to see them have some bad press continuously, or it's some very egregious mistakes, that's a sign that you want to be aware of. Because a lot of times what will happen with that is they will start to have some turnover, right? People will get laid. Some people will get laid off. They will actually increase your workload and have you work overtime in that, which will lead to you being burnt out. So be aware of that, right? Sometimes companies make mistakes because they're, it's ran by humans, right? So it's not saying that, everything is bad, but if you see something happen in the news, be aware of that. Be aware of the press. Understand what's going on. And make sure that you're setting yourself up to know what you can and cannot do, right? Because, managers will kind of put that pressure on you to produce more because they're trying to please management above them and so forth. But it's not a situation that's positive, that's going to be sustainable for you going forward in the future. So pay attention to that. Also, if you see a lot of constant restructuring within the company, right? Company, you've been there 4 years, they did 5 restructures. That's not a good sign. Like, companies don't restructure that often because they're successful. There's an issue going on, right? And that can lead to people not knowing what they should or shouldn't be doing, them putting excessive work on you, asking you to do something you didn't ask to do. You came in to be an accountant. Now they want you to do some other thing in finance. sales, if you will, for something, for example, something's like, hey, it's not what I'm getting paid to do, right? So be aware of that, right? A lot of restructuring, that's a red flag. Doesn't mean it's like the main source, but that can be an indicator that can lead to some of those other sources that I talked about, right? So next up, I just want to talk about, what can you do, right? So you've kind of assessed it, you see these signs, and now it's like, what do I do? What are my next steps on it as well? So first thing, what we talked about is just one, what are the signs you're experiencing, right? Be aware of those signs, right? Those are things that kind of give you an inclination of what the future is going to look like. So understand the signs, right? Is it just one sign? Is it multiple signs? But assess what's going on. The second thing you want to do is when you really got to have a heart to heart. Are you contributing to this, right? Are you participating in the toxic work environment? Are you gossiping, right? Are you trying to bully people to do things your way? If you're a manager, are you putting excessive workload or excessive overtime on your direct reports, right? So have a real conversation with yourself, right? Sit in the mirror or sit down. Doesn't mean you have to tell anyone, but you need to know, like, are you contributing to the actual problem? Because it's important to know that if you're a part of the problem or not. So the next thing in that aspect of it, so, you understand the signs, you've asked yourself, are you participating in the problem? The third thing you want to know is it a department problem or is it an organization problem? Because there's a big difference on it, right? If it is a organization problem, you may just have to leave the company, look for a job, get your resume up. If y'all want to hear me talk about kind of resume tips or interview tips, let me know in the comments below as well. But it may just be time for you to leave, right? If it's a whole organization situation, right? You just got to know it's time to go, right? It is what it is, unfortunately, in that aspect of it. If it is a department problem, then there may be an opportunity for you to move into a new role within another department or another division of the company. If you like working for that company, right? Maybe you can get into a new role or a new opportunity and just get a restart or kind of get a fresh restart, as opposed to getting that fresh restart to another organization there as well, right? So that's kind of another aspect of it. I think it's important to mention networking is always key at all times, right? And we dropped a video about networking. Check it out. I think there's some good content in there as well. But you want to be networking with people within your division that you work with directly or indirectly. So it allows you to be able to be aware of what's going on. If there's other interests that you may have, open you up for other opportunities, and vice versa. You can return the favor, or you may be returning the favor. You may be the person that's kind of exposing someone else to it as well. But it's important that you are networking always there. It's really a big thing of success that can allow you to grow and have a successful career. I firmly believe that 100%. But yeah, so understand if it's a department problem or it's an organization problem there as well, right? And now those are signs that you want to look at. And the last one I would say before if you want to add one more in there before you, kind of make a final decision is, can it be changed, right? If you are the main culprit or the main source of it, you probably can be the reason that kind of sparked the change or the catalyst from it. Make the change, or if you feel like you're going to be part of the change, right? You want to give yourself a timeline to revisit that and see if have you had any progress made in that direction, right? So if you gone through this process and you really don't want to leave the company, you don't want to leave the actual division you're in because you actually think there's a good purpose in what you're doing in that role. What can you do? What can be changed? And then assess that, right? Give it a month, give it 2 months, come back to it and see, has there been any progress made? But it still may end up leading to you having to move on because you staying in that work environment, even if it's a role that you're passionate about, is probably just not good for your mental. Just keeping it real with you there as well. So, yeah, man, I mean, that's kind of wraps up today's episode. I hope you guys found some value in that again. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Let me know if I missed any signs that you typically see in a toxic and work environment there as well. And if you want to talk about a specific topic that you want to hear me talk about, drop that in the comments below as well. But hey, as always, man, I appreciate y'all tuning in today's episode. If I'm lit and you lit, then we lit, so stay lit.